After 4 years in prison, Azerbaijani journalist Enula Fatalayev walked into the office of the International Press Institute in Vienna, a free man, on Wednesday. The editor of two now-closed newspapers, Fatalayev was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison in 2007 on a series of charges including terrorism and defamation that were reportedly brought in retaliation for his investigation into the 2005 murder of his friend and fellow journalist, Elmar Huseynov. Fatalayev alleged that Huseynov's killing was ordered by members of the security services in Baku, and that authorities engaged in a cover-up in the aftermath of the murder. Following Fatalayev's appeal to the European Court of Human Rights, Azerbaijani authorities in 2009 said they found heroin in his cell, and he was sentenced to an additional 2.5 years in prison. Many believed the charge to be fabricated to prevent his release in the event that the court in Strasbourg found that his rights had been violated. That's exactly what the court concluded in 2010, but Azerbaijani authorities ignored the court's order to immediately release Fatalayev. Following pressure by IPI and other international organizations, Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev granted Fatalayev amnesty in May of this year, and the journalist was released. In advance of the 10-year anniversary of the 11th September 2001 terrorist attacks, Fatalayev spoke with IPI regarding the ways in which the attacks, and the policies adopted in their aftermath, affected journalists around the world and him personally.
At first, I would like to express my gratitude and to say thank you to the International Institute, Press Institute, because when I was in prison, of course it was a very difficult time for me. It was a struggle not only for my freedom, but freedom of expression and freedom of press in such authoritarian country as Azerbaijan. And when I was in prison every day, every month, and unfortunately every year, because as you know I was in prison during 4 years, I felt the support and solidarity a lot of organizations, media organizations, and including the International Press Institute. That's why I would like to use the chance and to say thank you very much for your support. My responsibility as journalist, as editor, who would like to serve to reader, because our first aim is to serve to reader, but not to government or for interests of some social or political groups. And that's why it was, you see, my entire challenge and challenge of my readers. I prepared these materials, and after 2 years, government used my visit to Nagorno-Karabakh, and they arrested me. First charge was defamation. But after the protest of international community and the international organization, I mean OSCE, European Commission and others, they would like to change the charge and maybe to escape in the ISIS, in the public opinion, in the international community. That's why they represent the second charge. It was terrorism. As you know, it was approximately 3 years ago. I remember the speech of President of USA, Barack Obama. He said that unfortunately some authoritarian governments, especially in eastern countries, they use the international campaign against terrorism for, you see, for influence and for close the political freedoms and freedom of expression. The same situation was in Azerbaijan. They would like simple to maybe to liquidate the international support. They saw that if we shall, you see, prosecute Enula as a journalist who support the idea of terrorism, for example, the international community, the Council of Europe, will not support him. it was very dangerous tendency to my mind. It was absurd, it was nonsense, because I've written the articles about the relations between Azerbaijan, Iran, and United States. Between these three, maybe warmly points in geopolicy. And a lot of such similar articles published in other newspapers, in Western countries, Western newspapers, in, for example, Egypt, Iranian newspapers, and other newspapers. And we gave these articles in during of investigations. We tried to attract the attention of investigator that a lot of journalists publish such materials. Why am I? But the answer of Azerbaijan government was very clear. 3 days ago, the WikiLeaks published some very interesting materials and negotiations between representatives of Azerbaijan government, concretely the head of presidential administration, Mr. Mekhteev, and ambassador of USA, where Mr. Mekhteev said that the Fatullayev, he published a lot of critical materials against our government. Journalists must be, receive the position of government, and we don't allow, don't get the right to journalists to criticize the president especially. That's why he's in prison. It's in WikiLeaks. 3 days ago they published this clear information about the purpose of my arrest and purpose repression against me. That's why you see, yes, it's very actually now. Before this historical date, historical event, I must say that unfortunately a lot of countries, especially the authoritarian and totalitarian countries, they used this subject, this, to my mind, maybe the Holy Valley, because it was a great tragedy for American people, for international community. It was the and they would like to construct the repression mechanism under the victims, you see, under the dangers against the world. It was, you see, terrible. It's terrible, and it's terrible moral of authoritarian governments. That's why, to my mind, the problem of this terrible moral is very actual for us before this event too. You see, to my mind, Azerbaijan government, of course, participate in the international coalition against terrorism, but it's, to my mind, it's formally participation. Why? Because if the government don't support the clear European values, the values of Western civilization, these countries, of course, must formally participate in some anti-terror and coalition. But it's simple for maybe keeping of state interests, the interests of simple, the interests of ruling family. That's why, to my mind, you see, the international campaign against terrorism not so actually for Azerbaijan. Why? Because if you maybe if you against the citizen rights, the human rights, and simple rights of individual, You couldn't support the maybe campaign against the maybe interests of civilization, against the interests of people. It's simple, the maybe conflict of values. Conflict of values. To my mind, the 11th of September, of course, changed my life too, because this act, this maybe tragedy, opened the door for Azerbaijan countries, for Azerbaijan government, who, you see, used the new international campaign, used some interests of super states, and began the new policy in our country. I mean, arrests of journalists, repression against mass media, and so on. And especially the charge of terrorism, I mean. 11th of September opened the door and helped to our government as other governments to begin the investigation against the freedom of expression.